All right, we are live. Let me know if you can hear me. Let me know if you can hear me. Pop a comment in the comments box if you're watching on Facebook Live. Stick a comment in there. If you're watching through the Creative Ignition Hub, stick a comment on there. Let me know you are here. We'll give it the traditional kind of 3 minutes or so. Let a few stragglers arrive. In the meantime, in the comments, let me know, are you ready? One other thing that I should probably do is turn the lights on so you can see me properly. Whoa, there we go. There will also be an acclimatization period while I get acclimated. Is that the right word? Acclimatized, acclimated to the lights as well. Cool, I can see everything a bit more clearly now. It's going to start getting hot in here. Call me Nelly. Cafetiere of water. It's what all the big boys have, you know. So this evening's session, for those who are joining us and who are kind of waiting for the other stragglers to come on board, this evening's session is all about creativity. And we're going to be looking at some of the misconceptions around creativity, some of the keys that can turn even the person who thinks they're not creative at all into a creative genius. We are going to be looking at the number one question that particularly creative people are asking, but that, you know, a lot of us are asking based around the things we love doing. And then we're going to be actually doing some practical stuff. My promise to you guys is every single one of you, if you stay the course, you will write this evening at least 2 poems. Now, for some of you, the last time you wrote a poem may have been in school, and you may not have had very kind of good connections with that experience back then. I promise you, this is going to be effortless. This is going to be enjoyable, and what you create is going to be awesome. So I guess another big thing that I have, another big kind of goal, if you like, which if you would like to do it, is that you actually create something that is eminently shareable on this great social media world that we are all a part of. That is my hope for you. So definitely let me know you're here. I can see a few more. We've got a few more arriving. Big up Karen, big up Amelia. Good to see you guys on board. Let me check my my hub, see who's hubbing it up. Ooh, no one on the hub yet, allegedly, unless I need to refresh the page. Let's try doing that. What have we got? What have we got? What have we got? We have. All right, Seb is on board as well. Big up, Seb. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So, all good. I've got getting a round of applause from Amelia. This is sweet. What are we on? 21:03. Cool. Let's give it a couple of minutes. How's your day been? What have you been up to this weekend? You know, I'm very impressed. If you guys are here checking out this session, it means that, you know, you value investing in yourself and discovering about how you can bring your creativity into the world more. So big up yourself. You may be able to hear in the background, there's some crazy fireworks going on in the village. I've got no idea what that's about. Maybe it's some big August celebration. The end of summer, school starts again. And we are in school right now. This is a very different kind of school. This is the school where actually we educate ourselves. And what I mean by education is we bring out what is within, whereas schools tend to prescribe and instruct. This is all about education, bringing out what's within. I think we're going to get started, because why not? Let's do this. And I want to start, since this evening's session is about creativity. Some of you may have seen me perform this poem before, but for those of you who haven't, this is a poem called Creative Uprising, and it was inspired by the book that I wrote. It was also inspired by a wonderful lady called Ruth Anderson Davis, who is a musician. She sent me an instrumental and I wrote some lyrics for it, and this is what came out. So let me share this by way of kicking off the session. So who am I? Just a soul lighting up, surrendering my all to the call of love, and I'll be whatever life needs me to be. But see, here's how life works so geniusly. Because when you seek to serve others as you serve yourself, the universe decides that your best way to help is to share what you love without compromise or doubt, because your greatest joy is your greatest clout. So get out of that mind state of worthlessness. When you give your gift, the whole earth is blessed, and every test, trial, struggle, and strain is just conditioning your brilliance so you can attain those peaks and heights you were born to be scaling. And if you're always learning lessons, how can you be failing? It's time for unveiling a brand new way, a brand new state of existence and being, where we live the joy of our souls unfettered and freeing every talent, every creative capacity we know, and having the confidence and joy to just let it show. But I know you may have thought that the chance had passed for you to make a living from the joy of your art, the choice of your heart, but you went with your head and chose that safe option you were given instead. But your best, the peak of your peak, is when you stand up, stand out, and share your unique creative offering with this whole of the world. And here is that truth that glints like a pearl. Earth needs you. Now, more than ever. We've had enough of the debt, of the stress and the terror, had enough of the weather and enough of the wars. We're at the edge. So yes, we must rise, not fall. Answer the call. Live your life. Reach for your greatness. Give your light to ignite in the darkness and provide that chance for our creativity to be the answer. Thank you very much. That was a little brief snippet of a poem called Creative Uprising, and it kicks off the theme of this evening. So this evening's session is all about creativity. And one of the real challenges around creativity is that it's a real challenge to define what is creativity. If you ask 5 people, hey, define creativity, the chances are you may well get 5 different answers, right? So for the purposes of this session, I want to kind of give us a definition that we can work with, and I'll unpack it for you. So very simply, the definition of creativity we are going to use this evening is the application of imagination. The application of imagination. And what that means is, well, very often when people talk about creativity, they say, oh, you're so creative, or oh, that's such a creative thing. What they actually mean is, oh, that person's used their imagination really well, or there's a lot of imagination involved. Okay. But the creative element, to create something is to bring something into being. So there has to be an element of application as well, of actually doing. So that is why, for this purpose, the definition we'll work with is the application of imagination. Okay. But the challenges around definition leads to some misconceptions. Okay, leads to some misconceptions, because it may be that people have a good ability to kind of use their imagination and create wonderful works of art or whatever, and therefore people think, oh well, if I'm not artistic, or if I'm not, if I can't use my imagination, then I'm not creative, which leads people to think, well, creativity is this thing that you either have or you don't. And fundamentally, it's such a flawed way of thinking. Creativity is a skill, just like anything else, because if it is the application of imagination, then you can learn better to apply yourself, and as I'm sure there is mindfulness techniques, etc., will show, you can develop your imaginative capacities as well. So that first misconception, you've either got it or you haven't. Another one is that it's something that's kind of arts based. An artist is described as being creative, or maybe a piece of dance is described as being creative, and that's simply not the case. If creativity is the application of imagination, well, the accountants who allow Vodafone and Starbucks and Amazon to dodge billions in taxes, damn, those guys are showing some serious creativity. They are applying their imagination to the loopholes of tax law. So those guys, anybody, anywhere can be creative. It's really important that we get that locked down now. And these misconceptions have kind of led people to think. Also, we spoke yesterday about the old story, and the old story, because creativity and imagination has been seen as this thing that you just have or you don't have. Well, the old story likes to label people who are regarded as creative as being in somewhat kind of lacking in substance. It's like, oh, they're a bit kind of airy fairy, they're the creative ones. Do you know what I mean? And actually, well, that's fundamentally damaging to those people they're labeling, and it's super limiting to our potential, to what we might actually bring into being. Because if we regard them as, oh, they're not really the serious ones, they're not doing the serious work, well, then you wouldn't go onto a football pitch with only half of your team, would you? Because, oh, well, they're the attacking ones, they only like to do the running, they don't like to do defending. Well, you kind of need to score some goals, right? So the old story and what it's given us has fundamentally limited, I believe, the solutions we could find to things, the problems we could solve, because we've had almost a stigma attached to creativity, particularly around, you know, money as well. It's like, oh, well, you want to do art? Yeah, well, there's no money in that, is there? So we have these fundamental misconceptions around creativity. And, you know, tonight I really want to kind of break through some of those, if that might be something you're experiencing. And in a second, we're going to look into what are some of the kind of keys that can help you tap into your creativity. I want to just welcome people who are here. So Bex, welcome. Paul, Cam, it's amazing to have you, Cam. It's about 6 a.m. in Australia right now. So big up, Cam, for being here. And guys, if you are here, let's do a couple of things before we really dive into the session. We've dealt with a bit about what creativity is and is not, okay? Creativity, if you want to be creative, you need to keep hydrating your brain, okay? Make sure you as well, either you've got the workbook handy or you've got a pen and a piece of paper, a journal, because there's definitely going to be some application of imagination later on in the session. So make sure you've got whatever you need to capture the kind of the tidbits from this session that are valuable, and to actually do the stuff when we get there. I'm just going to check the hub, see who's on the hub. Cool. Let's redo this bad boy. So yeah, grab a piece of paper and a pen, do what you need to do, and we're going to dive into the creativity keys in just a second. All right, cool. Good. So, the keys to creativity. And the thing I really want to speak about here is, more than anything else, to be creative is about giving yourself permission. Giving yourself permission, okay? And the three things we're going to speak about really kind of align with that idea. In my book, I wrote about the neurochemistry of what happens when we have positive thoughts around creativity versus negative thoughts, okay? If we have positive thoughts, kind of, we affirm, hey, I can do this, whatever it might be. Actually, we flood our brain with serotonin, which facilitates the making of more connections and therefore more creativity, okay? Whereas if we say, I can't, cortisol gets flooded into our bloodstream, and that is the fight or flight hormone, where we essentially shut down broader brain functioning so that we can get ready to fight or to flee, okay? So fundamentally, the starting point for any understanding about creativity is that it's not this thing that some people have and some people don't. It is a skill that can be developed, can be mastered, and it is something which, if you give yourself permission to do it, that will reap massive dividends, okay? Especially if you can take on board these three creativity keys, okay? The first one being openness, And what I mean by open is be open to all possibilities, okay? If you come into, if you come to a situation and you've already got a set level of thinking about what might happen or what could happen, you are shutting down your ability to be creative. So be open, and that means to access the fullness of your imagination. And also, when we bring in the second key, it's to be able to tune in. And we spoke in the last session about really being able to access a different way of being, a different way of accessing information and kind of being with yourself, more heart versus head, okay? And this really comes to the fore with creativity, where we are trying to tap into the emergent. And that is, I guess you could articulate it as what is calling itself forth to be born, which sounds a bit flowery, but it simply means if you set out to write a poem, or I know Michelle is watching these sessions as well. Michelle is an author, and she's written, I think upward of 9 books now. And she will often sit down, and when she tunes into the writing and to the characters will go off in directions that she never foresaw coming. And she goes with it, and it ties itself all back together later on in the story. So the creative process is actually fundamentally about being open to not knowing where it's going to end up, because then you open yourself to the fullness of what might actually happen, okay? Big up Liam, big up Cam, another Cam who's on the session as well, just seeing you guys arriving. So the first creativity key is openness, all right? The second one, linked very closely to that, trying to tune into what is emerging, what is trying to come forth, is surrender. Surrendering to the process. And that is to say, well, look, this may take me 2 hours, this may take me 4 hours. Surrender to however long is needed for this creativity to occur. Surrender to that. Because when you do that, when you take away the limitation of time, you access a state called flow. And we spoke about this a bit yesterday, where you are likely to be 5 times more effective than you might be if you were simply trying to force something out in a particular time. Now, I should state there is a paradox to this. There are times when a very small deadline means we get it done and we kind of get the thing sorted. So there is a bit of a paradox there, but generally, if we can surrender to, hey, this is going to take as long as it needs, and I'm here for the process, we allow ourselves to drop into a very different state that allows our best creativity to come forth. Okay, and that kind of best state, if you like, which isn't quite that flow state. There's a lot of research, whether you want to go back to the ancient times, various spiritual traditions, Gnosticism, Hawaiian kind of Huna tradition, Vedic traditions, right to the kind of present day, looking at the Akashic field and what might be going on from a kind of consciousness perspective, that human beings consist of a binary consciousness. And what that means is we have our kind of physical self here, and we have an immaterial self, an immaterial part of us. You could call it your higher self, you could call it your soul, that is actually at play when we are doing our best work. When it might be, a footballer, just they're in the zone and they're not even aware of the crowd. You could say that their higher self is coming through and playing for them. When the poet is writing, when the painter is painting, in their most inspired states, they are accessing something that is greater than themselves. And some people will call that flow. Some people might call it your higher self, your soul, whatever you might want to. But fundamentally, whatever you want to call it, it's about surrendering to that greater power that we can become a part of. Okay, so openness, surrender, and the final one is sacrifice. Sacrifice. Third one is sacrifice. What do I mean by that? Creativity is the application of imagination. So you have got to do it. You've got to get done, right? And when we talk about sacrifice, there's 2 elements to that. Sacrifice, the word originally means to make sacred. So to understand that you are bringing forth something where, because it is coming from you, from your unique fingerprint, it is unique out of the entire scope of the cosmos. There's nothing like it. Although you may think, well, this looks a bit like that person's drawing over there, it's come from you. So actually embracing the fact that you are creating something sacred, something that has never been created before and never will be created again. And the other element of sacrifice, it's the kind of what the word has come to mean now. You've got to have some struggle in there. To bring something forth that is meaningful, that can give people value, that can wow them, it may well take struggle. It will take some heartache. You will get it so it's like nearly done, but not quite. And you will have to struggle those last few yards. Case in point, my book here, okay? For those on Facebook Live, I know that's backwards and stuff. The cover, I love this cover, okay? And I wanted to try and express that it was a kind of there was a kind of global thing going on. So you got the globe here. But the creativity, took in everything from sport, from kind of drama, music, and this process, I'd got the book finished, done, dusted. The final bit took 3 months to get this cover right. And yet it was so worth it, because when people see it and they're like, oh, I love this cover. It speaks to me. And as someone who is much more at home creatively with words, I finally understood through this process of creative struggle just how an image can tell a story. And it was the first time that's happened. So really, really amazing. And that struggle, if you can really bear that creative struggle, that is the final part of any creative process, the rewards will be so worth it. Okay. So for those who've just joined us, I am going to dust off my sweat a little bit. And let me just check some of these comments. Luke, big up yourself. Susan, how are you? 10 books Michelle has done, 10 books. And so Liam, big up yourself, Liam, amazing dancer. It's great to see Cam on the call as well. So quick recap for those who have just joined us. We've been looking at creativity. Creativity is not something some people either have or don't have. It is something that anybody can develop. It is a skill. It is the application of imagination, and you do that through being open, through surrendering to the process, and through sacrifice. Cool. So I want to answer the one big question. And on the session tonight, I can see we've got quite a few creative people. And when I say creative there, I'm meaning artistic, okay? We got kind of writers, we got dancers, we got musicians, okay? And I want to speak to the question which Michelle asked, which is, can any creative person make a living from their creativity if they work hard and if they persevere? Or should some people stick to having their creativity as a hobby and try and earn a living, in another way? Okay, and it is the big question, right? It's the big question, and for a lot of people who are a part of this creative uprising movement that we've initiated, this creative ignition journey being the first part of it, it is a big question, right? And my answer is, it could be two things. Essentially, my answer is yes, absolutely, any person can. There is, however, a major but, okay? And there's a major but. And it's such a major but that you could also argue that actually not every kind of person could, not every creative person could, because you will need to develop certain qualities that will ensure your success, okay? So let me run through those because it's really, really, really important. And I'm going to give some examples here that you guys definitely might want to check out, okay? So the first thing is, if you are going to earn from your creativity, it is impossible to do that if you do not value yourself. And I speak as someone who's really been on a journey with this, really, really been on a journey with this. I mentioned in some of the videos I launched as an introduction to Creative Ignition that I even did like a death ritual, which is where I fasted for 10 days and dug my own grave to try and come to a better place with valuing myself. And let me ask you this as well. Are there any people watching tonight or today, whenever you guys are watching the recording as well, big up yourselves for checking out the recording. Have you ever thought, oh, if only I was more disciplined, if only I didn't procrastinate as much, then if I only had more self-discipline, more willpower, then I'd be more successful? In the comments, please give me some answers to that question because it's a really big one. And I'm gonna tell you what that is actually about right now. So has that ever come up for anybody on this session right now? The feeling that if you have more willpower, more discipline, you procrastinated less, then surely you'd be able to earn a living from your creativity. I'm going to tell you what that is about. Let me just see if actually that is accurate for anyone or if it was just me back in the day. Okay, cool. Yeah, we got it. Yeah, Karen is in. Yeah, this is very true, very true. So, guys, let me speak about what this is all about, okay? Because I began this whole death ritual that I did thinking I needed to get rid of my lack of self-discipline, my lack of my lack of willpower, my procrastination. And as my kind of co-initiator, if you like, my brother James, who sat with me throughout the night, who buried me and sat by the fire making sure I stayed alive, which was nice of him. He helped me to dig into this a bit. And actually, what was going on, it wasn't that I lacked discipline or I procrastinated. I wrote this book in 3 weeks. If you lack discipline and focus and willpower, you don't write a book in 3 weeks, okay? So it wasn't about the procrastination, the lack of self-discipline. It was about the fact that I didn't actually believe what I had was of any value. And when I realized that, it was like a total shift, total shift, okay? So the example I give of actually how powerful it can be to value yourself is I write personalized poems for people. And I started off when I first did this charging £30 for a poem. And I thought that was quite a lot of money. I was like, £30, is that okay? And then a few of my friends were like, what the hell are you doing? Look at the results you're getting. You're making people cry with joy. There's very few other presents out there that do that, right? And they said, you should be charging way more than that. And I asked them for a figure and they said, well, try 150 quid. So I tried it. And people didn't bat an eyelid. They were like, yep, no problem. I'll send you the money tomorrow. And this was like, wow. And then I started thinking, well, actually, yes, I do deliver an amazing gift. So I was able to value myself around my personalized poems. And then thereafter, whenever anyone else asked me about it, I was like, yeah, 150 quid, that's the price. And I didn't bat an eyelid because I knew the value of what I was bringing. Okay, so the first step, if you want to earn from your creativity, you have got to value yourself, and that may take some serious work. It will be a bit of a journey to go on, perhaps, as well, because, you know, like I said, I did this pretty crazy ass ritual to try and actually bring that into my life. The second element to making sure you earn from your creativity is time and consistency. Time and consistency. It may well take a period of time for you to get to a point where you value yourself. You know, I'm 34 now. It's really been a journey for me to get there. Okay. The other element that I still struggle with majorly is consistency. Consistency. If you can consistently put out stuff that is valuable to people, then, you know, you are you're bringing together this like magic combination: time and consistently putting out stuff. With this world that we live in, this digital age, it is you then create what's called exponential opportunities to be found. And, you know, I'm still working on this. I had a consultation with Michelle the other night, who's talking about all these different things I can do to my social media profiles to actually enhance the chances of me getting noticed. And even with my fairly poor consistency to date, I still get noticed in crazy ways. I went on a kind of a men's weekend down in Brighton, and 2 people had seen my videos totally unconnected to me. And I was like, wow, this is nuts, right? Because I thought I was really bad. And yet even those few videos I put out still made an impact with people, okay? They were like, hey, aren't you the guy who does this? And I'm like, this is insane. So really, if you can value yourself and I know that it may take some time, but if you can consistently put stuff out, that's your magic combo. And in this new kind of digital world we are existing in, there is a fantastic opportunity, because previously, if I wanted to do my personalized poems or whatever, I'd have had to have gone knocking door to door and tried to kind of put out flyers and posters, and my reach would have been limited to my immediate geography. Okay, whereas now I've created poems for people in America, for people in India, without ever leaving my sitting room. Okay, so what the opportunity that exists today is, Kevin Kelly wrote a great article about this. Tim Ferriss references it in my book. I wrote about it actually before even knowing about Kevin Kelly's article. You only need 1,000 true fans, 1,000 true fans who are willing to spend £30 a year with you, and you have an income of £30,000. Now, for some, that may not be a lot. For others, that may be a lot. But most people, depending on their lifestyle, could live on £30,000. So I use this as an example to show it's very, very possible in our current age to make a living from your creativity, if you can take the time and have the consistency, and you value yourself enough to inspire 1,000 true fans. Okay, and what I mean by true fans is actually supporters, people who support what you do. All right, and the difference between a fan and a supporter is this: a supporter will buy your things, will invest in what you are offering, even when they could get it for free. So I'm a massive fan of a musician called Immortal Technique. He's like a revolutionary hip hop artist, does amazing things, like uses his album sales to build orphanages for people. And I can get all his music online for free. He even says, you have an obligation as a supporter of mine to burn this and give it to all of your friends for free so they can hear it, right? So I can get his music for free, no problem. I choose to buy his music. I choose to actually spend extra on concert tickets. Like, you can get the £10 ticket, or you can get the £30 ticket where you meet him as well. £30 ticket every time, right? Because I know that every pound I spend with that man is an investment in humanity, is an investment in improving the story of life on earth, okay? And that is the recipe for gaining 1,000 true fans. If you enrich their lives, if they are like, I could get your stuff for free, but I want to buy it to support you, and then you're on your way. And people on this call are that for me. I can see Cam in Australia, Michelle, Karen, Seb, all of these guys are true fans to me. They are my supporters. I have said, you can try this program, this 30-day creative ignition journey that we are on. You can try it for free. And if I don't add enough value, then you don't have to pay me at all. And they've already paid up 2 sessions in. So I know that and I hope this is true. You can kind of comment and let me know if this is accurate, that I've added sufficient value to you guys that you are a supporter of mine. And I do not take that lightly, and I intend fully to be supporters of yours as well. Okay, so does that make sense? That you only need these days a small number of people who love what you do, who will invest in what you do to make a living. But there is one thing I really need to speak to, and this might be a bit of a kind of shock for some people, okay? This might be a bit of a shock. There are a lot of creative people, and when I say there are a lot of creative people, what I really mean is I used to be like this, okay? I used to think that because I'd created something, I was entitled to be rewarded for it. I'd created this great poem, I should get paid for this. And actually, I have this kind of sense of entitlement. And here's a little phrase that I've invented for you guys. Please take it to heart. Entitled, get shite all. Do we hear that? Let me know if that's resonating. Entitled, get shite all, okay? People don't owe you anything. It is your job to wow them. It is your job to serve them until you can serve no more, so that they go, my God, I have got to support this person, okay? Does that make sense? There's a lot of artists like, oh, I spent 10 hours painting this painting. Well, give me a reason to actually, that's all you've told me is, all you've done is whine at me there, okay? Now, do I believe that if you've spent 10 hours painting that painting, it should be worth something? Yes, unless you're shit at art. But here's the thing, that might just be my opinion as well. Okay, sorry for the kind of NSFW language, but I'm getting passionate about it here. It might come out every now and then. So listen, if you're entitled, if you're thinking, oh, I deserve this, fundamentally you do deserve it. Value yourself. But actually, you've got to give people a reason beyond I deserve this to actually invest in you. Does that make sense? Okay, and that may be a hard truth to hear, but I love you enough to tell you the truth. All right, and I also speak to myself as well. I was in that place for sure. Okay, and the final thing I want you guys to consider. Actually, there's two more from my notes. I can see there's two more. So, entitled, don't get shy at all. All right, that means you're gonna have to do one of two things. Okay, one of two things. Either you have to become an entrepreneur, which means someone who is part artist, part entrepreneur, part creative person, part business person. All right. And in my book, I really recommend you check it out, or just check out his stuff. I interviewed a guy called Daniel Priestley, and when I interviewed him, he had a company that was kind of UK based and was starting to go global. It's now like in 5 different countries, making multiple millions, but making multiple millions because he is helping, small business owners do amazing things. Daniel Priestley, real thought leader in terms of the kind of the breaking wave of entrepreneurship. I've probably mentioned him before. Really check out his stuff. And I interviewed him from the book, and he was saying, look, so many people, they just want to do the work, i.e. they just want to get paid for doing what they do without actually doing the bit at the start, which is winning the contract in the first place, okay? You have got to be prepared to pitch your stuff, in many ways to become a salesman for what you do. And if that is something that is not your strength, and you're not willing to actually learn and develop it into one of your strengths, then what you've got to do is either get a team behind you, get someone who will sell you, or get a patron, get someone who's willing to back you with some cash so that you can just focus on doing whatever it is that you do creatively, okay? Does this make sense, guys? So you've either got to become an entrepreneur, or get someone to be an entrepreneur for you, or get a patron, someone who's going to back you financially, okay? And I want to give you the final thing in this before we head into the practical session. And I know the kind of time, officially we've got about 5 minutes left of the official session, but of course we've got the lock-in. I'm going to be here as long as you guys need me, all right? I want to speak about, something that actually has been a bit of a revelation for me, which is if your creativity is not being valued in the area where you're currently working, then try and come up with some places where actually it could be valued. And, I'm blessed that I'm an example of this, right? As a performance poet, as a spoken word artist, I would traditionally go and compete in slam poetry, like competitions. And my style of poems, which is more inspirational, trying to give a message, trying to uplift people, it resonated with the audience. But at slams, they tend to like humor and funny stuff, right? And I can do the odd funny poem, but it's not my natural style. My natural style is more about inspiration, okay? So in the slam area, in the kind of traditional spoken word area, I was finding it hard to gain traction, okay? Largely as well because I didn't value myself and I wasn't putting in the time or consistency elements. But also there was something very true about, there was a kind of mentality that poets generally didn't earn much money. Then I came into I discovered this whole world of personal development. Groups like the Yes Group, and I go to these big business conferences, and I start doing my poetry at these, And in this environment, there's a lot more value placed on investing in education, investing in things that make people go, wow. And suddenly I found that I had a whole new marketplace of people who loved what I did and who were willing to pay for it as well. So if you're finding it's a struggle to gain traction in your traditional marketplace, see if there are other marketplaces where you could add value, okay? So I know that there are, there's artists who, are great illustrators who actually get paid very good money to go to business conferences and kind of illustrate what's happening at the business conference. Now, that may not be their full-on thing that they love doing, but it pays for them to do the thing they love doing. Does that make sense? And they're still getting to practice their art and master their craft. So I hope that gives a sense of an answer to, can any creative person earn from their creativity, or should they just keep it as a hobby? Yes, they can, but they have got to value themselves. They have got to put in the time. They have got to be consistent. They've got to build a supporter base of at least 1,000 true supporters who love what they do, who will invest in them. And don't be entitled. Be either entrepreneur or get someone who will work for you to sell your stuff, and find new marketplaces if your current marketplace is a struggle. All right. So guys, hit me up in the comments. We're about to head into the kind of practical side of things. And I want to kind of just make sure you guys are still with me. Let me know you're on board. Let me know if some of that stuff that I just shared is useful. I'm going to take down my notes for this session, and I'm going to take some water. I'm going to check my hub, see what's going on, and get ready, because I'm about to make you some very big promises. And I'm definitely going to deliver on those promises, even if they may be a bit scary. Oh, that water is incredible. So I feel like I'm in a desert and suddenly I've just landed in an oasis. All right, right. Cool. Yeah, Seb's battling with the procrastination as well. All right, let me check some of these Facebook Live ones. It's useful, it's true. Yep, we're on this. Outstanding. Cool. So let's head into the practical side of things. What's Clint saying? I was late, but I'm here now. Yep, you're here. So let's do this. And Clint, I know you're going to love this part. So guys, if you've got the workbook handy, the playbook, crack it open. We're about to get into it. But first, I want to make you a promise. That if you play full out in this next session, this next part of the session, and you've got pen and paper to hand, I promise you that you will create at least 2 poems. That is my promise. Big up, Kai. Hope the trials were good, sir. So I promise you will create at least 2 poems, as long as you've got your pen and your paper to hand. Okay? But before we even kind of think about writing any poetry, right? Let's not even worry about that. Let's just get warmed up. Right? So what we're going to do first up is what I call a Christmas list to God. Okay? Christmas list to God. All right? And very simple. I want you to write down a list of probably 10 things. Imagine you were sending a list to God of the things you want for Christmas. Okay, the things you want for Christmas from God. Now, bearing in mind that whatever label you want to use, I'm using God in this sense. This is a kind of omnipotent, all-powerful being who can grant any wish. Okay, so what would you ask an omnipotent, all-powerful being for on your Christmas list? Go ahead and write down maybe between 5 and 10 things that you would ask God for Christmas. Could be I'd like a Ferrari. I'd like world peace. That's the kind of scope of things we're dealing with. I'll do this along with you. What would I ask for? I think I'd ask for probably my own recording studio to record my secret hip hop album that I'm working on. I'd definitely ask for world governments to agree to International Play Day, so that the creative uprising movement can really start serving its broader function. What else would I ask for? What would you ask for? And guys, post up in the comments some of your Christmas list of God wishes. Okay, let's have some humorous ones on there. I think I'd possibly ask for a lifetime supply of Mars bars, maybe like 1 Mars bar a day. Otherwise, I just eat Mars bars all the time and get sick of them. But like 1 Mars bar a day, that'd be pretty cool. So post up. What are some of the things? And also, guys, let's get real on this as well. I would definitely ask God for gender equality. all human beings and all beings on this planet to have a certain quality of life where they had water and food and education and health, and an opportunity to pursue their creativity in whatever way that might be. Those would definitely be some of the things. A camper van. Michelle is going for a camper van. Mate, you want to speak to, when you get that camper van, speak to Seb. He's got some Ace solar panel thing going on. And that is what's so amazing about this movement that we've started, this community, is that the level of talent in this group is, it's nuts. We've got musicians, authors. What else have we got? Who else have we got in there? It's insane. I mean, like people who do just incredible kind of I guess just kind of transformations of people's psychotherapeutic states. So Clint's doing his mind all good. Just an incredibly talented group of people. Literally, people are amazing digital marketers. People who are, what else have we got? People who are health fanatics. It just blows my mind when I think of the people who have gathered under this Creative Uprising banner. All right, so I hope by now you have got at least 5 wishes that you are going to post to God on your Christmas list. Okay, definitely share a few more if you've got any. Even if you haven't got the pen and paper, just what would you ask God for Christmas? Post it up in the comments. Cool. And all that is all we've done with that little kind of, it's like a little warm-up exercise. If we play football, we'd just be doing a bit of stretching, making sure we were ready. Because now I want to get into a really powerful little exercise called 5 senses. Okay, and of course we have our 5 senses. We have our 5 senses: sight, taste, touch, smell, and hearing. Okay. Now, if you've got the workbook, I want you to kind of play along in this section. And what I want you to do is to imagine when your life is poetry in motion. So I want you to kind of take a moment, close your eyes, and bring to mind. And poetry in motion simply means like it's amazing. Like you're having so much fun. It's so joyful, and when your life is poetry in motion, when just everything is amazing, when you're just happiest you can be. And I want you to kind of just see as you close your eyes and connect with when your life is poetry in motion. What's happening? What's happening? Who are you with? And it might be a series of different images and different places and situations that come to mind. Fantastic. And I want you to really, really stay, definitely kind of close your eyes here. Close your eyes if you can, and just let my voice guide you through this starting phase. When you're seeing your life as poetry in motion, what are you seeing? What are you actually seeing? What are you hearing? What smells are there? What smells are present? What are you tasting? Maybe your favorite food, maybe you're having a family meal. What are you touching? Where are you? What are you actually touching? Okay. And so really try and bring to life these moments when your life is poetry in motion, when your life is the best it can be. Access what's happening with all of the 5 senses. What are you seeing, hearing, touching, tasting, smelling? And whenever you're ready, go to your workbook, go to your piece of paper and say, when my life is poetry in motion, it looks like, and then you write out, it looks like my daughter dancing to her favorite song, or whatever it might be. It smells like the smell of fresh coffee in the morning, whatever it might. So, and go down for each of your 5 senses. Write out a sentence. When my life is poetry in motion, it looks like, it smells like, it tastes like, it sounds like, it feels like. And I'll give you a few moments. And I'll just put the senses up here as well. Cool. How are we getting on? How are we getting on? You know, this is a very, very simple exercise, but it can be very, very powerful, and I'll explain why in a minute. Right now, I guess give me a thumbs up, or you know, give me a done on the comments when you finished. And of course, you know, if you haven't got the workbook yet, just hit me up on Facebook. If you don't even know what's going on here, hit me up on Facebook, and I'll ping that over to you. You're part of the Creative Ignition, which is a 30-day journey, 30 sessions over 30 days, exploring how you can tap into your greatest assets and share them with the world in a way that enriches you and enriches the world. Okay, so let me know when you are done. So, you know, we are officially into kind of the lock-in period now. So, you know, that's the essentially, if you like, the teaching I've got for you this evening. I'm not really sure I like that word. It's not really appropriate, but what we will be diving into next for the remainder of the lock-in, we're going to do the same exercise on your gifts. We're going to do the same exercise on your gifts. I'm going to take some questions, and then we're going to be good to go. Okay, so let me just see what your Christmas list of God was. A team of people to work with. Yeah, wouldn't we all just love one of those? A world where there's no barriers, especially people with disabilities as well. So yeah, so many beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Big up Ben Sims, talking to creative people. Ben is one of New Zealand's finest physical trainers. Any New Zealanders watching need to get fit, check out 4Life Physical Training. Ben is also, he's a bit of a musical genius as well. Back when we used to do our hip hop nights, Ben was a producer. He made some crazy beats. So big up, Ben. All right. Cool. I think you guys, I'm guessing you guys are still working hard, because otherwise I'd have seen in the comments you guys are done. So I shall let you guys focus. Do you want our Poetry in Motion list here? If you want to post it up, fantastic. Go ahead, do it. For some people, that might be a bit of a stretch. But I did say I wanted to create something that is shareable for you. So certainly, if you want to share it, please do. And if sharing it publicly on a Facebook Live might be a bit much, then if you are part of the Creative Uprising movement, if you are part of the community, part of the group, do share, whether it's your Christmas list of God or whether it's your Poetry in Motion 5 senses, in the group as well. Okay. Clint. So Clint is a rapper as well. Needs some beats. I think Ben is officially in retirement at the moment, although that may have changed since I last spoke with him. So, guys, I promised you that you would each write 2 poems. You'd each write 2 poems. Now you may be thinking, yeah, that Poetry in Motion one, that's a poem I've done. The Christmas list of God. I've got some news for you guys. If you wrote even anything on that Christmas list for God, that's a poem. That's a poem. And I use that as an example to show that you are already creating far more than you think, okay? Just because you may not consider it to be a poem, or because at the time I didn't label it as a poem, trust me, if you went to a poetry open mic night and said, hi, this poem is called Christmas List to God. Dear God, for Christmas, I would like no starving African children. I would like no wars. I would like Mars bars. They would give you a label, like, woo, fantastic. Or they do like the clicking thing like they do, right? So trust me, you've already written 2 poems. So big up yourselves for that. Massive round of applause, okay? And that, I use that as an example to say you are already creating more than you believe. You already have more assets at your fingertips than you believe. And over this 30 days, we are going to bring those to life for you, I promise. So if you are still with me, let's dive into that same Poetry in Motion. Let's do it around your gifts. Okay, so again, close your eyes, guys. Close your eyes and just go with my voice. Go with my voice to actually bring to mind. Take a few deep breaths if you want as well. Bring to mind you giving your gifts, whatever that means to you, whatever that means to you. As you breathe in and out, what are you doing when you are giving your gifts? Who are you helping? Where are you doing it? And what smells are involved? What are you actually seeing? What are you hearing? Maybe some words, maybe laughter. What are you tasting? What are you feeling? When you are giving your gifts, bring all of those 5 senses alive as you experience yourself giving your gifts. What are your 5 senses doing? And again, whenever you are ready, grab your piece of paper or your workbook and write out, when I am giving my gifts, it looks like, it smells like, it sounds like, etc., etc. Go ahead. And again, if you are just joining and wondering what the hell is going on, why is George standing in silence? We're just doing an exercise around writing some poetry around what our gifts in the world are. And, you know, definitely give yourself permission. We spoke about creativity as the process of giving yourself permission. Give yourself permission to have fun with this as well. There is no exam. No one is judging you. You can share your creations or not as you wish. Big up Matt joining the session. Matt is one of Penzance's finest rappers as well. Got a lot of creative and artistic people on the call tonight. And of course, in the comments, do pop up if you're having any, if you're struggling at all, if you've got any challenges with this, do let me know so that we can actually get those dealt with whilst we're still on the session. I'm going to check the hub comments as well. And of course, when you are done, again, let me know you're done. All right, fantastic. Michelle shared her stuff on the Creative Uprising group. This is awesome. And you may think this is, you know, a very simple process. It is, but, you know, very, very rarely are we given, you know, the opportunity to actually, you know, express ourselves, use our imagination and apply that, you know, in the literal process of writing something down. So this very simple session has been designed to show 2 things. One, that you already have more assets than you believe, proven by the fact that you wrote 2 poems without even realizing it, okay? And that creativity is not this big scary thing. It's not this big scary thing. It is something which is a skill. It can be developed by anyone. And if you give yourself permission, you're already halfway there, okay? So guys, have you got any questions? Let me see. So Michelle's asking, do I think that some creative people have like just this spark that makes their work unique, that cannot be learnt or taught? There's this hilarious video doing the rounds on Facebook, which is it's like it's kind of a mock infomercial for genetics, and it's these athletes who are like, hey, I got given naturally fast twitch muscles and a great lung capacity. You'd have to train every day of your life just to reach the same level I am without any training, stuff like this. So genetics does play, there is an element of genetics in this, but I think more and more research is showing that actually for anyone where you think, hey, they've just got a creative spark, the chances are the spark that you're seeing is because they've dragged 18 tons of firewood for the last 17 years to the place where they're now able to make a spark. So I think, yeah, my take on it is that actually there is far more, what's the word I'm looking for? There's far more transpiration, and what I mean by that is sweating, There's far more transpiration than inspiration. Okay, so yes, maybe some people will. They'll seem to be. Even if you may think, oh, this person is amazing at, they say, writing, for example. Let's use yourself. Well, that might well be because they grew up in a house where both parents were avid readers, and they grew up in a house full of books. That doesn't mean that they had some genetic advantage, but actually what it meant is right from their formative years, they were immersed in a world that was going to actually support them to be what they ultimately ended up, which is a great writer. So I think I would probably go at least 80% is developed, is taught, is kind of skill based, and maybe there is that 20% that has, it's kind of, it's some genetic advantage or some predisposition. I do wonder in my own case, for example, my grandfather was a major kind of hotelier. My mum ran a guest house, and I've always found it easy in any situation to create a great kind of dining and feasting environment. So I wonder if there's a genetic element to that, or simply because I grew up in a world where my granddad was at this amazing hotel, and I saw my mum cooking lunch for like 20 people and being an amazing hostess. It might be a bit of both. Okay. So yeah, I mean, Bex, personally, I think it is more nurture, not nature. And there's a couple of great books you guys can check out for this. I've done a lot of reading in this. You could obviously just read my book. The second part of my book is majorly focused on that, where I summarize a lot of the learning. But some of the leaders in this field around the research, a guy called Dr. K. Anders Ericsson, who was the father of the research that gave birth to the 10,000 hours rule, which actually isn't accurate. I interviewed him for my book, and he said this was kind of a magical figure that Malcolm Gladwell popularized, basically. But Malcolm Gladwell's book, Outliers, is a great book on, what actually it takes to become, a real quality success in your creative field. A guy called Daniel Coyle has written a book called The Talent Code, where he talks about the process and what's happening in our brains as new skills and talents are developed. Matthew Syed, who's a former kind of championship-winning table tennis player, wrote an amazing book called Bounce. And he talks about Mozart. And Mozart is often held up as this major prodigy, right? If anyone was like the nature element, he's just got this gift. Mozart's father was one of the best music tutors in the entire, in Europe, basically. And that's often not really recognized. So by the time he was 4, his father had Mozart playing sonatas or whatever they play, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hours a day. So, even at 4 years old, he'd probably done more practice on the piano than most, good piano players would do in the whole of their life. Okay. So there is, I think, there's so much more nurture than is given credit for. And there is so much research that's now proving that is the case. So yeah, that said, for example, if you might want to go out and be a sportsman, this is where genetics might come into play. I would love to be a sportsman, like be a footballer, be a cricketer, but I'm 34 now. My knees creak when I go down the stairs. I could fix some of that, but if you want to be a sportsman, you basically need to be putting in that practice, that nurture from a young age, and you've really got to dedicate yourself to it so much. So say if you're kind of 25, 26, it's not unheard of, but it's very unlikely you're going to reach the top if you haven't got there already in a field like sports and athletics. For most other fields, you could argue that music is similar, but for most other fields, if you can find sufficient time to dedicate to it and really get better, you can go a lot further than you might expect. Let me just say this. Everyone has so Cam's saying everyone has a small spark, but if you get the right environment. So yeah, later on in the course, we're going to look at what I call the talent formula. And a major element of that is if you want to turn a talent into a world-class gift, such a big part is the environment that you are in. Okay. And that's why it's amazing that we are part of this movement together, that we are embarked on this journey, because we are going to be that environment for each other. So let me leave you, if there's no more questions or anything, let me leave you with an inspiring example. Okay. The example of a band called Show of Hands. And they are two, I think they're probably 55 odd now, each of them. They're a duo, and they didn't become professional musicians until they turned 40. Okay, they're folk musicians, and all they did, they lived down in the southwest. They would just tour around pubs, 2 or 3 evenings a week. And over time, we talked about time and consistency, right? So they did that for about 20 years. It was something they loved doing. They might get the odd tenner here, or they'd get free drinks there, but they put the time in and they were consistent. And it got to the point where after 10, 15 years, they had a significant fan base. And the way they became professional musicians is they said to their supporters, remember that key word? Hey, if you want us to come and play for you, you book the venue and we'll bring the sound engineer and you sell the tickets and we'll take, this is our fee, and you pay us that fee and you can keep whatever's left. And they, for the last 10, 15 years, they've been touring around as professional musicians, all because they built that fan base of support, of true supporters, and they had the time and consistency to really keep valuing themselves and keep sharing themselves. So I hope that little example proves what is possible. And for every single one of us on the call, we still have time on our side. And whatever you might be thinking, it is possible for you, but you've got to value yourself. You've got to put the time in. You've got to be consistent. And you've got to be willing to either get your business head on or get someone to do that for you. Okay. Guys, it's been an amazing session to share with you guys. Thank you so much. If you've got any questions, obviously put them in the Creative Uprising group. If you are not part of the group yet, request me on Facebook to add you to the group if you want to be part of this journey we are on. This is a movement. This is the start of that movement. Everything starts small. This is our acorn. We will become a mighty forest of oaks. And that looks like this. 200,000 circles, groups of people like us, meeting around the world, supporting each other to develop their gifts and share their gifts in a way that enriches their communities, enriches the world, and enriches them and their families. All feeding into an international play day where we bring play to the world as something that can help us be more productive, more profitable, and more peaceful and more loving. So that is the vision. That is where we are going. Thank you for being on board. And I will see you tomorrow. And tomorrow's session is about stories and about how you can take the events in your life and use them to wow an audience, to inspire a growing group of supporters who are going to love what you do, who are going to invest in what you do, are going to help you to live your gift, to share your gift, and be rewarded for making an impact in the world. Guys, have an amazing weekend. I can't wait to see you tomorrow night. Lots of love. Go well. I'll see you then.